The first time Rachel Miller realized the man in the black SUV was not just watching her, it was 13 inches the morning, and her son's backpack was in his hand. Rain fell hard over Seattle, turning the narrow street, outside her bakery, into a river of black glass. The sign above the shop window flickered in soft, yellow letters. Miller's Bakery. Closed. Dark. Safe. At least, it had been. Rachel stood barefoot at the top of the stairs, one hand gripping the baseball bat she kept behind the door, the other pressed against her chest as if she could keep her heart from breaking through her ribs. Behind her, 5-year-old Noah slept in the small bedroom at the end of the hall, unaware that someone had tried to pick the lock downstairs. Then came the sound that froze her blood. 3 quiet knocks. Not frantic, not drunk, not lost. Controlled. Rachel looked through the peephole. The man from the SUV stood outside her apartment door. He was tall, dressed in a black wool coat soaked by rain, his dark hair wet at the temples. Streetlight carved shadows beneath his cheekbones. He was not handsome, in a comforting way. He was handsome like a locked room, like a storm that had learned discipline, like every warning a woman teaches herself to recognize too late. In his left hand, he held Noah's tiny blue backpack. Rachel's breath vanished. She unlocked the door before fear could stop her. "What did you do to my son?" The man's eyes lifted to hers. Calm. Dark. Unreadable. "He's asleep," he said. "And if you want him to stay safe, you will lower the bat and listen." Rachel tightened her grip. "Where did you get that?" "From the man waiting on your fire escape." Her stomach dropped. Behind the man, black SUVs lined the street below, their headlights cutting through the rain like blades. Men in dark suits stood beside them, silent and watchful, not looking at the bakery, not looking at each other. They looked like they belonged to a different world. A world that bought silence, buried secrets, and never knocked twice. Rachel stepped back. The stranger entered her apartment like he had already memorized every corner of it. He placed Noah's backpack gently on the kitchen table, away from the puddle dripping from his coat. That small care terrified her more than violence would have. "Who are you?" she whispered. His gaze moved past her, toward Noah's closed bedroom door. Luca Moretti. Rachel knew the name. Everyone in Seattle knew the name. Moretti meant private clubs with no windows. Judges who retired early. Harbor unions that stopped working when one man made a phone call. Men who smiled on charity boards while controlling everything beneath the city's polished skin. Luca Moretti was not supposed to be real to people like Rachel. He was a rumor wealthy men lowered their voices to discuss. A shadow behind luxury towers and foggy docks. The kind of man newspapers described without printing the whole truth. Rachel raised the bat again. "You need to leave." "No." The word was soft, absolute. Rachel hated the way her body reacted, not with anger first, but with the awareness that if this man wanted to hurt her, the bat meant nothing, and yet he had knocked. "I said leave." Luca slowly removed his gloves. "2 men came for your son tonight. 1 entered from the alley. 1 took the fire escape. Neither reached his bedroom." "Who men?" "End of the 7. 9-7. 2 men. 9-7. 2 men came for your son tonight." The room tilted. Rachel backed toward the hallway. "Noah?" "Asleep," Luca repeated. "Untouched." Her knees weakened so suddenly she almost reached for the wall. She hated that Luca noticed. Hated that his hand moved half an inch, instinctive, like he was about to steady her before remembering he had no right. "Why?" she asked. "Why would anyone come for my son?" For the first time, something shifted in Luca's face. Not softness, not pity. Recognition. His eyes dropped to the thin silver chain around Rachel's neck. Noah's necklace usually hung there when he slept because the clasp scratched him. A small silver pendant rested against Rachel's collarbone. An old oval medallion with a black enamel rose and a tiny letter M engraved on the back. Rachel had found it with Noah when he was a baby, tucked inside the blanket his father left behind before disappearing from their lives forever. Luca stared at it like it had opened a grave. "Where did you get that?" Rachel covered it with her hand. "It belongs to my son." "No," Luca said quietly. "It belongs to my family." The rain hit the windows harder. For 5 years, Rachel Miller's life had been small by choice. Her bakery sat beneath her apartment on a quiet street in Ballard, wedged between a florist and an old bookstore. She woke at 4 every morning to make cinnamon rolls, sourdough loaves, almond croissants, and the little blueberry muffins Noah insisted were famous, Because 3 regular customers bought them every Tuesday. She knew which customer liked extra butter. Which elderly man came in not for bread, but because his wife had died, and he wanted someone to ask how he was. Which college girl cried in the corner booth after exams and pretended she was only there for coffee. Rachel loved the bakery because it was honest. Flour on her hands, sugar under her nails, rent due every month, a son to wake, feed, dress, protect, bills stacked near the toaster, rain on the windows, a life ordinary enough to feel earned. But for 6 weeks, ordinary had been cracking. The black SUV first appeared across the street on a Monday night. At first, she thought it belonged to a customer parked badly. Then it came back Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, always after closing, always facing her apartment window, always gone by dawn. She called the police once. By the time they arrived, the SUV was gone. She told herself she was imagining things. Then Noah began having nightmares. "There's a man outside," he whispered one night, crawling into her bed. Rachel held him close. "A bad man?" Noah shook his head sleepily. "No, the quiet man." That had scared her more. Now the quiet man stood in her kitchen, wearing a coat that probably cost more than her monthly rent, telling her 2 men had come for her child. Rachel moved toward Noah's room. Luca stepped aside immediately, giving her space. It was the first thing he did that did not feel like control. Rachel pushed open the bedroom door. Noah slept curled beneath dinosaur sheets, one cheek pressed into his pillow, his small hand wrapped around a stuffed fox missing one eye. His window was shut, the lock intact. The room smelled like baby shampoo and crayons. Rachel covered her mouth as tears rose, hot and sudden. Behind her, Luca stopped in the hallway but did not enter. "Do not come closer," she said. He obeyed. That should have comforted her. It did not. "Tell me what is happening," she said, turning on him. "And don't talk to me like I'm stupid. Don't give me one of those calm, powerful man answers. I am his mother. If someone came for my child, you tell me why." Luca looked at Noah sleeping. For the first time, his controlled expression almost fractured. "His father," Luca said, "was not who you thought he was." Rachel felt something cold move through her. Noah's father, Daniel Price, had been charming in the way dangerous men often were before a woman learns the difference between attention and love. He had met Rachel when she was working a double shift at a restaurant downtown. He had made her feel chosen, seen, adored. He had vanished before Noah was born, leaving behind a false last name, a disconnected phone number, and a hospital bracelet from the night Noah arrived early. Rachel had spent years deciding Daniel was a coward, not dangerous, not connected to the Morettis. "What was he?" she asked. Luca's eyes returned to the necklace. "My brother." The words landed so quietly Rachel almost did not understand them. Then the world narrowed. "No. His name was Daniel Moretti." "No. He ran because he betrayed the family." "No. He ran because he was trying to protect you." Rachel slapped him. The sound cracked through the hallway before she realized she had moved. Luca's face turned slightly with the impact. He did not touch his cheek, did not blink, did not punish her with anger. He simply looked back at her, with a stillness that felt older than rage. "I don't know you," Rachel whispered. "I don't know your brother. I don't know anything about your world, and you do not get to walk into my home and rewrite my life." "No," Luca said, "I do not." That answer disarmed her more than denial would have. "But men came tonight," he continued. "More will come. The necklace proves the boy's bloodline. If my uncle finds him first, he will use him or erase him. There is no third option." Rachel's vision blurred. "Noah is 5. I know. He likes pancakes, shaped like bears. He thinks thunder is dragons bowling in the clouds. He can't even tie his shoes yet." Luca's jaw tightened. "I know." Something about those 2 words made Rachel go still. "How?" Silence. Rachel's voice dropped. "How do you know?" Luca looked toward the living room window, where rain streaked the glass and the city glowed beyond it. "I have been watching the door," he said. "Not the child." Her stomach twisted. "For 6 weeks? For 11 months. The air left her lungs. Rachel backed away from him. "You were watching us for almost a year?" "Yes." "Why?" Luca did not answer fast enough. Rachel understood then that whatever truth he was holding back was worse than what he had already said. "Why?" she repeated. His eyes met hers. Because I was ordered to kill you. The room became soundless except for rain. Rachel's hand found the wall. Luca stood in front of her, still as a confession. My uncle believed Daniel left evidence with you. He believed the boy might be Daniel's. He believed removing you would end the question before anyone else asked it. And you came? Yes. To kill me? Yes. Her fingers shook. She wanted to run, but Noah slept behind her. There was nowhere to go. What stopped you? Luca looked at the half-open bedroom door. Rachel's throat tightened. What stopped you? She demanded. His voice changed, almost imperceptibly. Lower. Rougher. You were singing to him. Rachel remembered the night without knowing she remembered it. Noah had a fever. She had sat on the kitchen floor at 3 a.m., holding him against her chest, because he would not stop crying. She had sung an old lullaby badly, her hair unwashed, her shirt stained with medicine, whispering promises she was not sure she could keep. I saw you through the window, Luca said. You had no one. No guards. No money. No idea what Daniel had left behind. Just a child burning with fever, and a woman willing to bargain with God for one more breath. His eyes darkened. I went back to my uncle and told him you were clean. Rachel stared at him, horrified. You lied. Yes. Why? Luca's mouth tightened as if the answer cost him something. Because my brother died running from monsters. And that night, I realized he had left his heart behind. Rachel hated him. She hated that he had watched her. Hated that he had decided whether she deserved to live. Hated that he had stood close enough to danger to understand it, and still let her believe she was alone for 11 months. But beneath the hate was something worse. Relief. Because if Luca Moretti had not been outside tonight, Noah's room would not still be quiet. A phone vibrated in Luca's coat. He checked the screen. His expression went empty. We have 3 minutes. Rachel's body went cold. For what? For you to pack one bag. I'm not going anywhere with you. You are. No, I'm not. Luca stepped closer. Not enough to touch. Enough to make the hallway feel smaller. Rachel, he said, and her name in his mouth sounded like a warning and a prayer. There are 2 dead men in the alley below your bakery. My men are cleaning the scene before the police are paid to misunderstand it. In less than an hour, my uncle will know I chose you over him. When that happens, your bakery will become a target, your bank accounts will be frozen, and every camera in this neighborhood will be searched for your face. Rachel swallowed. You don't have to trust me, Luca said. You only have to love your son more than you fear me. That was cruel. That was effective. Rachel pushed past him into Noah's room, gathered his favorite pajamas, his stuffed fox, his inhaler, his small rain boots, and 3 books from the shelf because she could not bear the thought of him waking somewhere strange without stories. When she came back out, Luca stood by the kitchen table holding the necklace. He did not take it. He waited. Rachel snatched it from the table and fastened it around her neck. If you lie to me, she said. If you use him. If you scare him. If you bring your war anywhere near my child. I will not. I wasn't finished. For the first time, Luca almost smiled. Almost. But the expression disappeared before it became human. Rachel stepped close enough to look him in the eye. If you hurt my son, I don't care how powerful you are. I will end you. The men outside feared Luca Moretti. Rachel could see it in the way they straightened when he appeared, in how they never interrupted him, in how their eyes scanned the dark for threats but always returned to him for permission. Yet when Rachel threatened him in her narrow apartment hallway with flour still on her sleeve and terror shaking her voice, Luca did not look insulted. He looked fascinated. Good, he said softly. He needs a mother like that. They left through the back stairs. Rachel carried Noah wrapped in a blanket, his sleepy face tucked against her shoulder. Luca walked ahead, one hand inside his coat, his body angled slightly toward them. He did not look dramatic. He did not rush. But every man around him moved like the air had changed. In the alley, Rachel saw a smear of rainwater and something darker near the dumpster. Luca stepped into her line of sight before she could see more. Don't, he said. I'm not fragile. No, he replied. But you don't need that image when you close your eyes. She hated that he was right. A black SUV waited with the rear door open. Rachel hesitated before getting in. Luca noticed. You sit with him, he said. I'll sit in front. You're not sitting beside me? Not unless you ask. Rachel stared at him. Men like Luca took space. They did not offer it. She climbed in with Noah. The interior smelled like leather and rain. As the SUV pulled away, she looked back through the tinted window at her bakery. The yellow sign flickered in the storm. For 5 years, that little shop had been proof she could survive abandonment. Now it disappeared behind them like a life she had borrowed. Noah stirred against her. "Mommy?" Rachel kissed his hair. "I'm here." His sleepy eyes opened halfway, landing on Luca's silhouette in the front seat. "The quiet man," Noah murmured. Luca did not turn around. Rachel felt his stillness. Noah nestled closer. "He watches the dragons." Rachel's throat tightened. "Yes," she whispered, not knowing whether she was comforting her son or herself. "I think he does." The hidden lake house sat 2 hours outside Seattle, tucked behind black pine trees and a private road with no mailbox. Dawn had begun to bleed silver through the clouds when they arrived. Mist floated over the water. The house itself was all dark wood and glass, expensive but lonely, built like a place meant to survive storms rather than welcome guests. Rachel stepped out holding Noah. Luca spoke to one of his men near the gate. His voice stayed low, but the effect was immediate. Cars repositioned. Guards vanished into the tree line. Security lights blinked on across the property. Rachel watched him command danger with almost no movement. No shouting, no panic, no wasted words. That frightened her more than rage would have. Inside, the lake house was warm. A fire had already been lit. Someone had placed children's clothes, groceries, and new toothbrushes on the kitchen counter. The thoughtfulness made Rachel's stomach twist. "How did you know his size?" she asked. Luca removed his coat. "I guessed." "You don't guess." "No." "Then don't lie badly." His eyes met hers across the kitchen. "I had someone purchase what he might need." "That is not better." "I know." Noah woke fully near sunrise. He stared at the unfamiliar ceiling, then at Luca, standing by the window. Rachel braced for fear. Instead, Noah whispered, "Are we camping?" Rachel's heart cracked. Luca turned slowly. For a man who could face armed enemies without blinking, he looked almost uncertain before a sleepy child in dinosaur pajamas. "Something like that," Rachel said quickly. Noah looked at Luca. "Do you have pancakes?" Rachel closed her eyes. "Noah." Luca glanced at her, then at the pantry. "I can make pancakes." Rachel almost laughed from shock. "You can make pancakes?" "I can follow instructions." "That's not the same thing." Noah sat up. "Can they be bears?" Luca studied him with the seriousness of a man negotiating peace between nations. "I can attempt bears." He failed. The first pancake looked like a wounded cloud. The second looked like a map of a country no one had discovered. Noah laughed so hard he nearly fell off the stool, and Rachel, despite herself, smiled into her coffee. Luca saw it. The moment vanished as quickly as it came. He looked away first. That became the rhythm of the first days. Luca gave orders outside, then entered the house like a shadow, trying not to disturb the furniture. He never entered Rachel's room. Never touched Noah without permission. Never raised his voice. At night, when Rachel put Noah to bed in the upstairs guest room, she would come down and find Luca sitting in a chair facing the front door. The first night, she thought he was checking messages. The second, she realized he slept there. Not well. Not fully. One hand near the inside of his coat, head tilted back, eyes opening at every shift of the wind. On the third night, Rachel stood at the bottom of the stairs. "There are 6 guards outside," she said. "8. Then why are you sleeping by the door?" "I trust my men." "That isn't an answer." Luca looked at the dark windows reflecting the firelight. "It is the only entrance I don't trust from a distance." "That still isn't an answer." His gaze moved to her. "Because if someone gets inside, they reach me first." Rachel hated what that did to her chest. "You think that makes you noble?" "No." "Good. I think it makes me useful." She folded her arms. "You could sleep in a bed like a normal person." "I am not a normal person." "No," she said. "Normal people don't stalk mothers and make pancakes like crime scenes." Something flickered in his eyes. Almost amusement. Almost warmth. It made him look dangerous in a different way. Rachel turned to go upstairs before the silence could become intimate. "Rachel." She stopped. "Lock your bedroom door." She looked back. "From who? Your enemies, or you?" His expression did not change, but the pause before his answer stretched too long. "Both, if that makes you feel safer." That night, Rachel locked the door, then stood with her forehead against it, angry because some part of her knew he would never cross it. The first attack came through the media. On the fourth morning, Rachel woke to her face on every local news site. Bakery owner linked to Moretti crime family. A blurry photograph showed Luca helping her into the SUV. Noah's blanket visible in her arms. Another showed her bakery taped off by police. The article suggested she had been hiding money for organized crime. One anonymous source claimed Rachel had abandoned her business during a criminal investigation. Rachel read the headline 3 times, her hands shaking harder each time. Her phone had 87 missed calls. Employees, customers, unknown numbers, reporters. Then came the comments. She has a kid? Someone check on him. Always the quiet ones. Bakery was probably a front. Rachel set the phone down before she threw it. Luca entered the kitchen and knew instantly. Give me the phone. No. Rachel. I said no. He stopped. She turned on him. Did you do this? No. Did your world do this? Yes. Her eyes burned. Then don't stand there like you're not part of it. Luca accepted that without defense. That made her angrier. I built that bakery with nothing, she said. Do you understand that? Nothing. I worked when I was pregnant. I slept in the storage room before I could afford the apartment. I made every loaf, every cake, every ridiculous custom birthday cookie by hand. People trusted me. Mothers brought their kids there after school. Old men sat there because they were lonely. And now they think I'm some criminal girlfriend because you parked outside my door. His jaw tightened. I will fix it. You can't fix reputation with money. I can fix the people damaging it. That is exactly what I'm afraid of. Luca stepped closer. My uncle is trying to isolate you. If the city turns against you, you have no one to run to except me. Rachel stared at him. The cruelty of it was elegant. Emotional manipulation through public shame. Force the mother into the monster's house. Then make the monster look like shelter. He wants me dependent, she whispered. Yes. And you don't? Luca's eyes held hers. The silence was the most honest answer he had given. Rachel laughed once, bitter and broken. At least you know when not to lie. His voice lowered. I want you alive. I want the boy safe. Everything else I want is irrelevant. Her pulse shifted. Everything else? Luca looked at her mouth for half a second. Half a second was enough. Then he stepped back and became cold again. I'll handle the article. But Rachel was beginning to understand something terrifying about Luca Moretti. His control was not absence of feeling. It was a cage built around it. That afternoon, Luca took a call in the study. Rachel passed the door and heard her name. She stopped. I don't care what it costs, Luca said quietly. Buy the site. Bury the story. And find the source. A pause. No. No threats. Not to the reporters. They're useful idiots. I want the person feeding them. Another pause. His voice turned colder. If anyone publishes the child's face, I will consider it an act of war. Rachel moved away before he saw her listening. In the living room, Noah built a tower out of wooden blocks near the fire. He looked up. Mommy, is Mr. Luca mad? Rachel sat beside him. A little. At me? No, baby. Never at you. Noah considered that. He looks sad when he thinks nobody sees. Rachel's chest tightened. Children noticed what adults survived by ignoring. That evening, after Noah fell asleep, Rachel found Luca outside on the deck overlooking the lake. Rain misted over the water. He stood without a coat, sleeves rolled to his forearms, phone in one hand, and whiskey untouched on the railing. You're going to get sick, she said. No. Right, I forgot. Mafia bosses don't catch colds. He glanced at her. Only bullets and lawsuits. She did not want to smile. She almost did. The silence settled between them, not comfortable, but less sharp than before. Did you find the source? She asked. Yes. Who? My uncle's attorney. Why go through the media? To make you visible, Luca said. Invisible people are harder to kill quietly once the city is watching. But visible people are easier to ruin. Rachel leaned against the doorframe. And Daniel, your brother. What was he really involved in? Luca looked out at the lake. Daniel was supposed to inherit part of the Moretti organization. He hated it. He was charming, reckless, impossible to control. My father adored him. My uncle despised him. And you? Luca's mouth tightened. I protected him until I couldn't. What happened? He discovered my uncle was moving money through children's charities, hospitals, family courts, legal places, clean places, places no one wants to believe are dirty. Rachel felt sick. And Daniel tried to expose him? He stole ledgers, account keys, names, then he vanished. With me. With you. Rachel folded her arms around herself. He never told me. No. Did he love me? She hated how small the question sounded. Luca looked at her then, and the answer was not simple in his face. Yes, he said, but not well. The truth hurt more because it felt fair. Rachel nodded, looking away. Luca's voice softened, barely. He should have told you. Yes, she said. He should have. Rain whispered across the deck. And Noah? She asked. What does the necklace mean? It marks a Moretti heir. Rachel's stomach clenched. He is a child. To you, Luca said. To my uncle. He is a claim. On what? Property. Voting power. Old contracts. The harbor. The trust my grandfather built before the family split. If Daniel had a son, and that son is proven legitimate by blood and token, my uncle loses control of half the empire he spent 20 years stealing. Rachel closed her eyes. This was not about family. It was about ownership. I won't let them turn him into a symbol. I know. You don't know anything about what I'll allow. Luca turned fully toward her. I know you stood between your son and me with a baseball bat. She looked at him. I know you would rather lose everything than let him be used. I know you are terrified and still arguing with a man everyone else obeys. His eyes moved over her face with restrained intensity. I know enough. Something trembled in the air between them. A near touch. A near confession. A dangerous almost. Rachel stepped back first. Don't look at me like that. How? Like I'm something you're trying not to want. Luca went still. Then he said, Go inside, Rachel. The words were calm, but his voice had changed. Why? Because I am trying. She should have been scared. She was, but not only scared. The next morning, Rachel found a folder on the kitchen table. Inside were photographs, not of her, of the men who had come to the bakery. Of Salvatore Moretti. Of Daniel standing beside Luca years earlier. Both younger, Luca colder even then. Daniel smiling, like he expected the world to forgive him. There were financial records, news clippings, birth certificates, a copy of Noah's hospital bracelet. Rachel touched the bracelet copy with shaking fingers. Luca stood across from her. I had a private investigator verify Daniel's movements before I ever came to your door. You investigated my son. Yes. The answer was too blunt to be anything but true. I should hate you more than I do, she whispered. Yes. Stop agreeing with me. No. She looked up, furious and exhausted. Do you ever fight for yourself? His expression darkened. I don't know how. The honesty slipped out before he could stop it. Rachel saw him realize it, saw the wall return. But it was too late. For one moment, Luca Moretti was not a mafia boss, not a predator in a black coat, not a man with guards and secrets and blood on his hands. He was a boy who had been trained so long to be useful that he no longer knew what he wanted unless it came shaped like duty. That did not absolve him, but it made him human. A knock sounded at the front door. Luca's entire body changed. Rachel saw it happen, the warmth vanish, the eyes sharpen, the man become weapon. One of his guards entered. We found the bakery employee. Rachel stood. What bakery employee? Luca's gaze flicked to the guard, warning him to choose words carefully. The guard did not look at Rachel. Tessa Grant. She was taken from her apartment last night. Rachel gripped the chair. Tessa was 23. A part-time employee who decorated cookies with tiny flowers and called Noah boss because he liked to inspect muffins before opening. No, Rachel whispered. Luca was already reaching for his coat. Rachel blocked him. Where is she? Rachel. Where? His face hardened. A club downtown. Then I'm going. No. She works for me. She was taken to draw you out. Then it's working. Luca stepped closer. You are not walking into a mafia club because guilt is louder than fear. Rachel's eyes filled. You don't get to decide which people I'm allowed to care about. She is bait. She is a person. That stopped him. Not because he disagreed. Because she had found the wound beneath his logic. A muscle worked in his jaw. If you come, he said, you do exactly what I say. No. His eyes flashed. Rachel stepped closer, voice shaking but clear. I will not be dragged. I will not be hidden in a car while you decide what truth I'm strong enough to hear. If my life is inside your war now, then I walk into it with my eyes open." Luca stared at her for a long moment. Then he turned to the guard. "Bring the armored car." The underground club was beneath an old hotel near Pioneer Square, hidden behind a red door and a restaurant kitchen, where no one looked surprised to see Luca Moretti arrive with violence in his eyes. Rachel wore a black coat Luca had given her. It was too expensive, too warm, and smelled faintly like cedar and smoke. Noah was safe at the lake house with Luca's most trusted older guard, a gentleman named Enzo who had let Noah beat him at checkers 3 times without pretending too obviously. Rachel told herself Noah was safe. She repeated it like prayer. Inside the club, bass pulsed through dark velvet walls. Men in suits turned as Luca entered. Conversations died one by one. It was the first time Rachel saw his power in public, and it chilled her. Luca did not need to threaten. Fear recognized him before words did. His hand hovered near the small of Rachel's back without touching. She felt the absence of contact like heat. At the center table, a silver-haired man sat beneath a chandelier shaped like falling knives. Salvatore Moretti. He looked older than Luca, but not weaker. His elegance was predatory. His smile was almost paternal. "Luca," he said, "you brought the baker." Rachel felt Luca's stillness sharpen. "Where is the girl?" Salvatore sighed. "Always direct. Your father considered that a virtue. I considered it a lack of imagination. I won Nasa Veneti." He lied. "Tengermain. I won not to I won no bien ome. I won no di imagine. I won no bi ome." Rachel stepped forward. "Her name is Tessa." Salvatore's eyes moved to her, amused. "And yours is Rachel Miller, owner of a failing bakery, mother of a very valuable little boy. Poor judge of men, apparently." Luca moved so fast, Rachel barely saw it. 1 second he was beside her. The next, he had Salvatore's nearest guard pinned against the wall with a knife pressed flat, not cutting, just promising beneath the man's jaw. The club froze. Luca's voice remained calm. "Speak about the child again." Salvatore's smile faded. Rachel could not breathe. This was the violence Luca kept folded under his coat, controlled, precise, terrifying. And all of it had risen because Salvatore mentioned Noah. "Enough," Salvatore said. A side door opened. Tessa stumbled out, shaken but alive, escorted by one of Salvatore's men. Rachel rushed to her, catching her as she sobbed. "I'm sorry," Tessa cried. "They asked about you. I didn't tell them anything. I swear." Rachel held her tightly. "You did nothing wrong." Luca released the guard and turned to Salvatore. "This ends." Salvatore laughed softly. "No, this begins. You have grown sentimental over a woman who does not belong in our world." Rachel looked up. Luca's face was unreadable. Salvatore leaned back. "Tell her, Luca. Tell her what Daniel took. Tell her what you were supposed to do. Tell her the only reason she breathes is because you disobeyed too late." Rachel went cold. Luca said nothing. Salvatore smiled. "There it is. The silence of a man who knows love does not erase orders." Rachel's eyes moved to Luca. "What does he mean?" Luca looked at Salvatore, not her. "Don't." Salvatore's smile widened. "Daniel called him, you know. The night he died. Begged Luca to come. Begged him to protect you both. But our Luca was loyal then. He waited for permission. And here, the night he..." Rachel's chest tightened. "No." Luca's face had gone pale beneath the club lights. Salvatore continued, cruel and elegant. "By the time permission came, Daniel was dead. Such a tragedy. If Luca had chosen family sooner, perhaps your son would still have a father." Rachel stepped back as if struck. Luca finally looked at her, and the thing in his eyes was worse than guilt. It was confirmation. The ride back from the club happened in silence. Tessa was sent to a safe location. Luca handled it with quiet efficiency, but Rachel did not thank him. She sat in the SUV, with her hands clasped tightly in her lap, staring at the rain-blurred city. Luca sat beside her this time, not because she had asked, because the truth between them had changed shape, and distance no longer protected either of them. "Rachel," he said. She did not look at him. "Did Daniel call you?" "Yes." "And you ignored him?" "No." Her laugh was broken. That's your defense? I answered. She turned then. Luca's face was stripped of its usual coldness. But not soft. Never soft. Something raw moved beneath the surface. Contained by force. He told me he had a woman, Luca said. He told me she was pregnant. He told me Salvatore knew. He asked me to get you out. Rachel's throat closed. I was 29, Luca continued. My father was dying. Salvatore controlled the men. If I moved without approval, he would know where to look. I told Daniel to stay hidden for one more night while I secured a route. One more night, Rachel whispered. Yes. And he died. Yes. Rachel looked away before he could see the tears. I have replayed that call every day for 6 years, Luca said. Every word, every breath, every second I thought strategy mattered more than fear. Why didn't you come for me after? I did. She looked at him. You had already disappeared from the address Daniel gave. New name, new hospital, no records connected to him. I searched for years. Rachel remembered those early months, the shelter, the cheap motel, the church basement where a woman helped her file paperwork under her mother's maiden name. She had not known she was hiding from Mafia. She had only known Daniel was gone and someone had left a threatening message on her old apartment door. When I found you, Luca said, Noah was 4. And you watched us. Yes. Why didn't you tell me? Because every truth I brought would destroy your peace. My peace was a lie. Yes, he said quietly, but it was yours. Rachel hated him again, and understood him more. That was the cruelty of it. At the lake house, Noah ran to her in pajamas, sleepy and relieved. Rachel dropped to her knees and held him so tightly he complained. Mommy too squishy. She laughed through tears and loosened her arms. Luca stood near the doorway, watching them with an expression Rachel could not bear. Noah looked at him. Did you fight dragons? Luca's gaze moved to Rachel. Not all of them. Later, after Noah slept, Rachel found Luca in the kitchen washing a mug that was already clean. You should leave, she said. His hands stilled. For tonight? He asked. For good. He did not turn around. The silence stretched. No, he said. Rachel's anger flared. You don't get to refuse. If I leave, Salvatore comes. I'll go to the police. He owns enough of them to delay the honest ones. I'll run. He'll track the necklace, your accounts, your phone, your friends. Then what am I supposed to do? Stay here with the man who let Noah's father die? Luca turned. Pain crossed his face, fast and controlled, but she saw it. Yes, he said, until I kill the war before it reaches him. Rachel stared at him. That is not comfort. I am not offering comfort. I am offering the truth. She shook her head, tears spilling now. I don't want your truth. I want my bakery. I want my son's stupid dinosaur sheets. I want to worry about rent and muffins and whether Noah eats vegetables. I want to go back to not knowing men like you exist. Luca stepped closer. Rachel did not move. His voice lowered. I would give that back to you if I could. You can't. No. You ruin everything you touch. His face closed. There it was. The hit that landed. Rachel regretted it instantly and refused to take it back. Luca nodded once. Then he walked to the front door, picked up his coat, and stepped outside into the rain. He did not leave the property. He stood on the porch all night. Rachel watched from the upstairs window, hating the outline of him beneath the porch light, hating the rain on his shoulders, hating herself for wanting to open the door. At dawn, Noah found him there. Rachel came downstairs to see her son standing inside the open doorway, wrapped in a blanket, staring up at Luca. You didn't sleep, Noah said. Luca looked down at him. No. Mommy says sleep makes people less grumpy. A pause. She's probably right. Noah held out his stuffed fox. You can borrow him. But only outside the door. Luca stared at the toy like Noah had handed him a crown. Rachel stood frozen in the hallway. Slowly, Luca crouched. Not too close. I can't take that from you. He's brave, Noah said. For dragons. Luca's throat moved. I know someone like that. Noah looked confused. Who? Luca's eyes lifted to Rachel. Your mother. The next few days were a war of silence. Luca planned. Rachel resisted. Noah adjusted with the heartbreaking flexibility of children, calling the lake house, the storm cabin, and asking if they could bring the bakery mixer next time. Rachel spent hours on the phone with her employees, landlord, suppliers, and lawyer. Luca had unfrozen her accounts before she could ask. He also arranged private security for Tessa and the bakery staff without asking. Rachel was furious about that until Tessa called crying and said she had never felt safer. "You don't get points for fixing damage caused by your family," Rachel told him. "I know. And stop saying I know like it makes you less impossible." Luca looked up from a stack of documents. "I am impossible." Rachel threw a dish towel at him. He caught it. For one reckless second, they both almost smiled. Then his phone rang. The name on the screen changed everything. "Enzo." Luca answered. His expression sharpened. Rachel stood. "What?" Luca listened, then looked toward the stairs. "Noah?" Rachel said. "He's safe." Luca replied immediately, but his voice was too controlled. Enzo found a tracker sewn into the lining of the backpack. Rachel's blood went cold. "Noah's backpack?" "Yes." "The one you brought from the apartment?" "Yes." Her mind raced back to that night. Luca holding the tiny blue backpack in the rain. Luca placing it gently on the table. "How did it get there?" Luca's eyes darkened. "Someone close enough to your home." Rachel sat down hard. "My employees? Possibly." "No." "Rachel." "No. Not Tessa. Not Mrs. Albright from next door. Not Mr. Lee from the bookstore. These are normal people." "So were you," Luca said softly. That silenced her. Normal was not protection. It was only a word people used before the hidden things surfaced. The betrayal came at sunset. Mrs. Albright, the elderly neighbor who had brought Noah knitted hats every winter, appeared on the lake house security feed. Rachel stared at the monitor, disbelieving. "She doesn't know anything," she said. "She can't." Luca stood behind her, face grim. She was followed. The old woman stood near the gate in a raincoat, shaking, holding a paper bag from Rachel's bakery. "She brought muffins," Rachel whispered, and the absurdity almost broke her. Luca picked up his phone. "Do not open the gate." Rachel turned on him. "She's 70. She may be wired. She's scared. So are you. Fear doesn't make people safe." Rachel hated him for being right, and hated the world for making him that way. Then Mrs. Albright lifted her face toward the camera and mouthed two words. "I'm sorry." A black van appeared behind her. Luca moved before Rachel screamed. The next minutes became fractured images. Security lights flooding the trees. Men shouting. Rachel running upstairs for Noah. Luca's voice over the house speakers, calm and deadly. "Lock the upper hall. Now." Noah crying as Rachel pulled him into the safe room behind the library bookshelf. The heavy door closing. Darkness. Her son's small hands clutching her sweater. "Mommy, are the dragons here?" Rachel pressed her lips to his hair. "No, baby. The quiet man is outside." That was the moment she realized she trusted Luca Moretti with the thing she loved most in the world. Not because he was good. Because he was there. When the attack ended, Luca came to the safe room himself. His knuckles were bruised. A cut marked his cheekbone. His white shirt was torn at the collar. He looked like violence had passed through him and found him familiar. Rachel wanted to hate the relief that flooded her. Noah ran to him. Rachel reached out instinctively. Noah. But Luca had already crouched, keeping his hands visible, letting the child choose. Noah stopped just before touching him. "You look hurt." "I've had worse. Mommy has bandages." Luca's gaze lifted to Rachel. Something unspoken moved between them. Rachel turned away first. "Kitchen." He followed. She cleaned the cut on his cheek in silence, standing close enough to feel his breath shift when the cotton touched his skin. The kitchen smelled like antiseptic and rain. Outside, guards moved across the property. Inside, Noah slept on the couch, exhausted, stuffed fox tucked beneath his chin. Rachel dabbed the cut harder than necessary. Luca did not flinch. "You should be more careful," she said. "I was. That's disturbing." His eyes stayed on her face. "You were in the safe room?" "Yes." "The boy was behind reinforced steel?" "Yes." "Then I was careful." Her hand paused. The intimacy of that answer was unbearable. "Luca." His name came out softer than she intended. His eyes dropped to her mouth. The room changed. Slow-burning tension filled the space between them, dangerous because it had survived anger, betrayal, fear, and truth. He lifted one hand slightly, then stopped before touching her waist. Always stopping. Always restraining the thing in him that wanted. Rachel should have stepped away. She didn't. "What do you want from me?" she whispered. His jaw tightened. "Nothing you don't give." "That sounds noble." "It isn't." His voice was rough now. Every part of me wants to take your trust, your forgiveness, your face in the morning, your son's laughter in a house that was never meant to hold it. I want things I have no right to want." Rachel's breath shook. "Then why don't you?" His eyes lifted to hers, dark and tortured. "Because you have been taken from enough." The words broke something in her. Not forgiveness, not love, but a door. Rachel touched his cheek where the cut ended. Luca went utterly still. For a moment, the feared man of Seattle looked as if a gentle hand could destroy him. Then headlights swept across the windows. Luca turned instantly, putting himself between Rachel and the glass. But it was not an attack. It was a message. A black envelope had been left at the gate. Inside was a photograph of Noah at the bakery from months earlier, sitting at the counter with flour on his nose. On the back, written in elegant ink, "Bring the heir to the church, or the city learns what Luca did to his brother." Rachel felt the room spin. Luca took the photograph. For the first time since she had known him, his hand shook. The church was Street Agnes, abandoned after a fire 10 years earlier, sitting near the foggy harbor where Seattle's old money met its old sins. Luca refused to bring Noah. Rachel refused to stay behind. So they made a plan built on lies. The public scandal broke the next morning. Luca Moretti accused in brother's death. Rachel Miller hiding secret mafia heir. Bakery owner and crime boss in forbidden custody war. Every headline was designed to force them into daylight. Salvatore wanted Luca emotional, exposed, desperate. He underestimated Rachel. At noon, Rachel walked into a press conference outside her closed bakery wearing a navy coat. Noah safely hidden miles away with Enzo and 3 trusted guards. Luca stood beside her, black suit, expression carved from stone. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted. Police watched from barricades, as if unsure who owned the moment. Rachel stepped to the microphones. Her hands trembled. Luca noticed. He moved half a step closer, not touching. That small restraint steadied her. "My name is Rachel Miller," she said. "I am not a criminal. I am a mother. I built this bakery with my hands, and I will not let powerful men use my child as a headline." The reporters quieted. Rachel looked directly into the cameras. "Daniel Moretti was my son's father. He died before I could ask him the truth. Since then, men with money and influence have tried to decide what my son is worth. Let me be clear. My child is not an heir, a weapon, a symbol, or a threat. He is a little boy." A reporter shouted, "Are you romantically involved with Luca Moretti?" Rachel froze. Luca's face turned lethal, but Rachel lifted her chin. "Mr. Moretti has done things I cannot defend," she said. "But when danger came to my door, he stood between it and my son. More powerful men hid behind lawyers. He stood in the rain." The cameras flashed faster. Luca did not look at her. He couldn't. Rachel finished quietly. "If anyone wants to come for my family, they can stop hiding behind newspapers and come say it to my face." The clip went viral within an hour. The city split open. Some called Rachel reckless. Others called her brave. Customers arrived outside the bakery with flowers. Mothers posted photos of birthday cakes she had made. Tessa gave an interview saying Rachel had protected her employees like family. The public humiliation Salvatore designed began reversing. For the first time, Rachel was not isolated. She was seen. That night, Luca found her in the bakery kitchen. He had reopened the shop privately so she could check the damage. Flour still dusted the counters. A cracked mug sat near the espresso machine. The place smelled faintly of sugar, smoke, and memory. Rachel ran her hand along the wooden counter. "I thought I lost this." "You haven't." She turned. Luca stood in the doorway, too large for the small kitchen, too dark for the warm yellow light. "You shouldn't have defended me today," he said. "I didn't defend you. I told the truth. That can be more dangerous. I'm learning." His mouth curved faintly, then faded. Salvatore responded. Rachel's stomach tightened. "The church? Midnight. Noah stays hidden." "Yes. And me?" Luca's eyes darkened. "You stay with Enzo." "No." "Rachel." "No." She stepped closer. "This ends because of my son, because of Daniel, because of me. I am not hiding while men decide the ending. If you come, he will use you against me." "He already is." Luca looked away, jaw hard. Rachel reached for his sleeve. He went still at the contact. "I'm scared," she said. His eyes returned to hers. "I know. I don't forgive you for Daniel. Not yet." Pain flickered in his face. I know, but I trust you with Noah. That struck him harder than any accusation. He closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, something had changed. Note softness. Devotion under restraint. That is the only forgiveness I need tonight, he said. At midnight, fog swallowed the harbor. Street Agnes stood hollow and black against the water. Its stained glass windows cracked, its bell tower leaning like an old witness. Inside, candles burned along the aisle. Not holy candles, theatrical ones. Salvatore had always understood the value of a stage. Rachel entered beside Luca, wearing a dark coat, the Moretti necklace visible at her throat. Luca's men moved like shadows outside. Salvatore's men waited inside. Noah was nowhere near the church. Rachel held on to that truth with both hands. Salvatore stood near the altar. Well, he said, the mother arrives without the heir. Disappointing. Rachel's voice was steady. He's not yours. Salvatore smiled. Blood is never personal, my dear. It is paperwork, written by God. Luca stepped forward. It's over. Is it? Salvatore lifted a small drive between two fingers. Daniel's final call. Edited properly, it makes you sound like the architect of his death. The city already wants a villain. I will give them one. Luca's expression remained calm, but Rachel felt the shift in him. The fear was not for himself. It was for what the lie would do to Noah one day. Rachel spoke before Luca could. Daniel left more than a call. Salvatore's smile faded. Rachel reached into her coat and removed the necklace. Luca turned sharply. Rachel. She ignored him, holding the pendant up beneath the candlelight. The night Daniel left, he gave me this for Noah. I thought it was just a necklace. But Luca found out the pendant opens. Salvatore went still. Rachel pressed the tiny clasp. The oval medallion clicked open. Inside was a microchip no larger than a fingernail. The church fell silent. Luca stared at her. He had not known. Rachel looked at Salvatore. You spent 6 years hunting a ledger. Daniel hid it, in the one thing he knew. No Moretti would destroy. Salvatore's face twisted. Then chaos broke. A shot cracked through the stained glass overhead, not graphic, not direct, but enough to send shards raining down like crystal ice. Luca moved instantly, covering Rachel with his body as she ducked behind a pew. His arm wrapped around her waist, hard and protective, pulling her beneath him as candles overturned and men shouted. Stay down, he ordered. No. Rachel. She shoved the microchip into his hand. End it. For half a second, he looked at her like leaving her was impossible. Then Salvatore shouted, Kill him. Luca Rose. What followed was not cinematic because of violence. It was cinematic because of control. Luca moved through the church like a man who had spent his whole life becoming the thing he hated, and tonight had finally chosen what that monster was for. He disarmed one man, knocked another into the old confessional, fired only when forced, and never once let the fight move toward Rachel. Outside, sirens wailed. Not police bought by Salvatore. Federal agents. Claire Bennett, an FBI translator Luca had once saved, and Rachel had never met, had received the files from Enzo 30 minutes earlier. Daniel's ledgers were already uploading to 3 news outlets and the Department of Justice. Salvatore realized it at the same moment Luca reached the altar. His empire had not been destroyed by a rival boss. It had been destroyed by a dead brother, a mother, and a necklace around a little boy's neck. Salvatore grabbed Rachel when she tried to move toward the side aisle. His arm locked around her shoulders, a small blade glinting near her collar. Luca froze. The entire church froze with him. There it was, the image that would have stopped hearts on a thumbnail. Luca Moretti standing in a ruined church beneath broken stained glass, his white shirt marked with rain and ash, his eyes fixed on Rachel as his uncle held her at the altar. Salvatore smiled against Rachel's hair. Now, he whispered, you understand inheritance. It is not money. It is what a man cannot bear to lose. Luca lowered his weapon. Rachel's eyes widened. No. Luca kept looking at her. His face was calm. Too calm. Let her go, he said. Salvatore laughed. And you'll do what? Trade yourself? Confess? Die? Yes. Rachel's throat closed. Luca, don't. He did not look away from her. Daniel asked me to choose faster, Luca said quietly. This time I am. Salvatore's grip shifted. That was all Rachel needed. She drove her heel down onto his foot and twisted away the way Luca had taught her 2 nights earlier in the kitchen, when she had insisted she did not need defense lessons and learned every movement anyway. Luca moved at the same instant. Salvatore fell hard against the altar steps, the blade skidding across the stone. Luca caught Rachel before she hit the ground, one hand behind her head, the other around her waist. For a moment, the war disappeared. Rachel clutched his shirt. His forehead nearly touched hers. "You came back," he breathed. "I was never yours to lose," she whispered. His eyes closed, pain and relief breaking through every wall. "No," he said, "but I was lost anyway." Federal agents flooded the church. Salvatore was taken in handcuffs, past broken pews and dying candles, shouting about blood rights, family power, and betrayal. Luca did not watch him go. His entire focus remained on Rachel, scanning her face, her hands, her breath. "I'm okay," she said. He did not believe her until she took his hand and placed it over her heartbeat. The gesture undid him. Not publicly, not dramatically, but she felt it, the slight tremor, the sharp inhale, the way his fingers curled against her coat as if prayer had become physical. At dawn, they returned to the lake house. Noah ran into Rachel's arms first, then looked at Luca. "You fought the dragons?" Luca crouched, exhausted, bruised, alive. "Yes." "All of them?" Luca looked at Rachel. "Enough for tonight." Noah studied him, then wrapped his small arms around Luca's neck. Luca froze. Rachel saw the exact moment the most feared man in Seattle stopped knowing what to do with his hands. Slowly, carefully, he placed one hand on Noah's back. His eyes lifted to Rachel, and there was fear there. Not of enemies, of being trusted. Weeks passed. The Moretti Empire did not vanish. Empires never vanished cleanly. They were dismantled in courtrooms, newsrooms, boardrooms, and whispered deals made under pressure. Salvatore's ledgers exposed judges, hospital executives, charity directors, and harbor officials. Luca surrendered parts of his organization piece by piece, burning the clean businesses Salvatore had poisoned, selling the properties tied to blood, and placing Daniel's legitimate holdings into a trust Rachel controlled for Noah. Rachel reopened Miller's Bakery on a rainy Saturday. The line wrapped around the block. Tessa cried while frosting cupcakes. Mr. Lee from the bookstore brought flowers. Mrs. Albright sent a letter from protective custody, apologizing in shaky handwriting. Rachel read it 3 times, then placed it in a drawer, not forgiven, not discarded. Luca did not attend the reopening. At least, not inside. Rachel found him across the street at closing, sitting in the same black SUV beneath the same streetlight. For a moment, the past folded over the present. Rain on glass. A dangerous man watching her door. Only this time, Rachel crossed the street. Luca stepped out before she reached the curb. "You're late," she said. "I didn't want to scare your customers." "You scare everyone." "Yes." She looked at him beneath the streetlight. The cut on his cheek had healed. The darkness around him had not vanished. It never would. Luca Moretti would never become an ordinary man. He would never be safe in the simple way other men were safe. But Rachel no longer mistook safe for harmless. Sometimes safety looked like a man sleeping outside a door, because he did not trust the world to stay gentle. Sometimes protection was flawed, controlling, painful, and in need of boundaries. Sometimes love did not arrive clean. Sometimes it came soaked in rain, holding a child's backpack, telling the truth too late, and then spending every breath trying to make it matter. "Noah asked if you're coming for pancakes tomorrow," Rachel said. Luca's face softened by 1 guarded degree. "Are they bears?" "He said you need more practice." "He's right." Rachel smiled, then grew serious. "I don't want a cage, Luca." His eyes held hers. "I know. I don't want guards deciding my life. No. I don't want Noah raised inside your darkness. He won't be. And I don't want you watching from across the street, like punishment is the only kind of love you understand." That hit him quietly. He looked down. Rachel stepped closer. "I want you to knock." Luca's eyes lifted. The rain fell between them, silver and soft. "For what?" he asked. "For dinner. For pancakes. For me. For the life you keep standing outside of." His throat moved. "I don't know how to be that man." "I know." A faint, broken smile touched her mouth. "Learn." He looked at the bakery behind her, warm and glowing, full of everything his world had almost destroyed. Then he looked at Rachel, like she was both mercy and sentence. "I will fail," he said. "Probably. I will be difficult. You already are. I will still want to protect you too much. Then I'll remind you I own a baseball bat." For the first time, Luca Moretti truly smiled. Small, rare, devastating. Rachel felt it like the first break of sun after months of rain. He reached for her hand, then stopped just before touching it, still asking without words. Rachel looked down at the space between them. Then she closed it herself. His hand was warm, strong, and careful around hers. Across the street, the bakery lights glowed gold against the Seattle rain. Upstairs, Noah's bedroom window shone softly, dinosaur curtains visible behind the glass. The black SUV idled at the curb, but it no longer looked like a threat. It looked like an old chapter waiting to end. Rachel tugged Luca toward the bakery. "Come on," she said. "The door locks at 9. He followed. At the threshold, he paused. For nearly a year, Luca Moretti had slept outside Rachel Miller's door because guilt was the only language his heart understood. Now the door opened. Warmth spilled across his black coat. Rachel stood inside, holding his hand. No longer the woman he had been ordered to erase. No longer just the mother of a Moretti heir. No longer a secret guarded from the rain. She was Rachel, and for the first time in his life, Luca stepped into a home without conquering it. Behind them, the rain kept falling. Ahead of them, Noah's sleepy voice called from upstairs. "Did Mr. Luca bring the brave fox?" Luca looked at Rachel. Rachel smiled, and the most feared man in Seattle, the man who had burned an empire for a mother and her son, reached into his coat and pulled out a worn stuffed fox with one missing eye. "I borrowed him," Luca called back, voice rough with something dangerously close to peace. "But only for dragons." Rachel leaned against the doorway, watching him look up the stairs like a man seeing the impossible. Not forgiveness fully. Not a perfect ending. Something better. A beginning earned in rain, blood, truth, and the fragile choice to stay. Outside, the black SUV waited empty beneath the streetlight. For once, no one was watching the door.